Yo, yo, yo. I would say Grand Rising, but afternoon.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. What's everybody on this morning? Whoops. See there, I went too this
Right.
morning, this afternoon.
It's a habit.
I'm so used to going live in the morning.
Top of the morning to you, though. It's been a
Right,
minute.
top of the afternoon. It definitely has been. It definitely has been. Well, especially with so much, you know, going on in
Spread
America,
thin.
going on in the world and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I ain't been having my Batman and Robin.
Sha, right. Well, speaking of like there being so much news to cover, and I feel like we've probably been a little spread thin with that. However, the context of the world, like of course everybody's spread thin with all the stuff going on around the world. Even the United States Army is spread thin.
Right.
Have you
That's
heard about
good.
the conflict going on in the former Yugoslavia states?
I have not.
What about Venezuela trying to annex part of Guyana?
Yes.
All right, so that battle, that is probably something that we likely will not get involved in because we already have our military stretched very thin. So the most we're going to do is just patrol those waters to kind of threaten Venezuela to say, you better not try anything, motherfucker. We're right here, but we're really not going to do nothing. And honestly, realistically, Venezuela, if they want to take over Guyana, they've got their work cut out for them. Not that they can't do it, they can. But then again, the rest of the world or the rest of the Western powers are not going to let that happen because Guyana has lots of oil. Venezuela does too, but Venezuela is also not in the best condition, and I wonder why that is. You know, when these multinational companies come in and take over the resources, usually your country falls into what's the word I'm looking for? Chaos? You
Yeah,
know?
that's what we're seeing in America.
Right. Right. Speaking of that, I mean, you know me and conspiracy theorists, whatever you want to call it, but everything that I keep watching, the experts are saying we're already in the devolution of bless you. We're already in the development of our country. Our system and way of life here is already on the way it's out. And we're witnessing that in real time. And if you ask me, it's faster than what people would have thought or ever considered it would be for America. But I mean, me personally, I saw this downfall coming from the 90s and I was a kid. But everyone don't think like me. Shit. What about you?
I just really see it as, you know, that really a lot of the shit that these people are doing ain't really gonna help us. They're pinpointing shit to be fear mongering. They are, to me, it's manipulation. It's about control, uh, and people are falling.
Yep. Fear shit. Fear mongering is the word that you pinpointed that sticks out to me because that is a way to exert that control. People respond to fear with more emotion than they would other things. And the status quo knows this. They find every way they find every way that they can to evoke fear to promote decision making amongst the peoples instead of critical thinking. That's went out the window. So when you're living in a
I'm
state
gonna
of
I'm gonna I'm gonna be honest with you, right? Because you talk about critical thinking. the more that I've seen it, like literally until recently, did I really see people thinking about other options, thinking about why are we like just to say like Chicago, right? Because
Mhm.
they voted Democrat because these people voted they promised all these things, and now that shit's blowing up in their face because they said told people it was going to help, and
Right.
now it's really not helping, and they're begging the federal government. You got literally the mayor having panic attacks.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's you know, and my thing of it is, it's like and I've always believed in this, is that history repeats itself, especially when you're dealing with a bunch of people that are undereducated, can't
Mhm.
read, can't comprehend. Um, we fall into the same old, and that's literally where we're at. 1920, what was going on? You had a
Mhm.
pandemic.
Oh, what
It's
else did we have?
true.
And what did we have in the late 20s?
The women's suffrage movement. You had
What?
the bloody summer of 1919.
Okay, you're missing something else. The Great
What am I
Depression.
missing?
The Great Depression.
Honestly, are we? I don't see, but we're not there.
No,
And
but we will. No, that's my point. We're going to get there, and
you
everything we're going through now, everything we're going through now is setting us up for that. And the housing market is going to be the way to that. You notice houses are not selling. People, so when the pandemic hit and you had all those rich yuppies and all those millennials that had money in the city that were able to move out of the city to get away from COVID, they moved to the suburbs, like to the suburbs, not the regular suburbs outside the city. They moved to the suburbs that are like 3 counties over from the city that they were in because it was the furthest away from things, right? Now they've been stuck in this place that they don't want to be in for a few years, and they want to move. They want to move back to the city. But guess what? They don't have the money because they're trying to sell their home, and their home is not selling. And this is happening all across the country. I know people that have been trying to sell their home for over a year, and it's not happening, or they get lowballed. And this is, experts have been warning of this, and they're ringing the alarm. Nobody's listening. But what happened the last time we had problems with the housing market? It was too late once it happened. Once the news and people started to want to be alarmed about it, the damage was already done. And I feel like that's going to be another cog in the wheel coming to fruition again in the same scenario. Remember, our system has to have that boom and bust cycle every few years. Like every few years, we have a depression. We have to. That's part of the system. So, where's that leave us today? We had a pandemic. We're on the brink of wars in many different ways: proxy war, civil war, global war, ideological war, Cold War, and a technological war. And eventually, we're going to have a war against AI. We're coming to a depression unlike the world has ever seen, I feel. And it's very it's bone chillingly interesting that it hits 100 years after the same kind of scenarios happened 100 years ago. And another thing I think about is Hitler. So I've been doing a lot of research on Hitler again. Like I am obsessed with like the Nazi Party and Hitler, and just understanding how all of that transpired and the world turned a blind eye for the most part. Like, or we did at least. I wonder how it's going to play out now. Like, and what are we going to partake in, and what are we going to abstain from, and why? And us as citizens of America, how are we largely as a group of people going to respond to stuff going on? Like, largely, we, as far as America goes, majority of America wants a ceasefire. The studies have already declared that. So, we are taking an anti-war stance right now. Even with Ukraine, we did, you know? Um, but that's not enough. That's not enough to prevent like the same. It's not enough to prevent history from repeating itself again. Because from where I'm standing, the same things are happening just 100 years later. What you think?
No, I'm just saying. For I, I see it differently, and I'm going to tell you why I see it differently is because you have a group of people, first of all, that we are so distracted and deflected as people. And I want to play this video.
But think about it. In the Roaring '20s, they were too.
This is last night. At,
You can't hide. You're supporting genocide. You're supporting genocide. You can't hide. You're supporting genocide. You can't hide. You're supporting genocide.
so you got Fetterman, who is in the U.S. Senate,
He's a
on his
Nazi.
roof with the Israel flag, and people, protesters, having Palestine flag. Now, that just shows me how divided America is, because I'm going to tell you something that I don't think fully people are comprehending is that Fetterman is a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
Fetterman is a Democrat. And I guarantee it that most of the people down there that are protesting at his house
Or a Democrat.
are Democrat. And here's another thing of it is that what a lot of people don't understand.
What I want to say something real quick. Because I want real quick, like the older Democrats are trying to paint it as an age issue, but I don't feel that way.
Because it's not an age issue when it comes to the Democrats. It's an ideology issue. You have
That part.
socialists, because I'm going to tell
They
you
don't
right now,
want to admit socialists exist. That's why.
Minneapolis has 13 council members who are all Democrats. All Democrats.
Damn.
They did a resolution, and it's being called one of the most progressive ceasefire resolutions in America right now. That
Well,
was just
actually,
passed.
Minneapolis is the first city and major city in the country to do so. Like y'all have gotten praised for it.
Yeah, which is whatever. But there's been over 400 entities, city entities, that have done resolutions. They just haven't been on the scale of,
Right.
I shouldn't say not 400, like 40, but Minneapolis was. Akron has one, and I bet you a lot of people didn't even know that.
Yeah, and I believe Lancaster does too.
Yeah, there is other city entities, but when you Hastings, Minnesota, but see, when you look at a lot of these other resolutions, they don't really. Minneapolis is basically calls out Israel for a genocide, where the other resolutions put it as a ceasefire and put blame on both parties. Minneapolis
Oh.
doesn't do that, and that's why there was such an outcry from the Jewish community, from the mayor, from um, various black organizations, different, calling out this resolution. And it is what it is. I'm not gonna say if I agree with it or disagree with what they did, but I think that we have other issues. I'm glad, whatever. For me, I don't think a ceasefire is going to help anything. I'm not saying that. I'm not
I agree.
saying I need a war. I want a war going on. But I think that it's time that should be returned, because if we can sit here and we can agree for it for the Native Americans, then we need to stand behind Palestinians, and we just need to give them people their land back, because this is about history. And the one thing that I see a lot of missing in conversations when it comes to Gaza and the Israel-Palestine conflict is history.
Yep. We're seeing history be erased right before our very eyes. Do we want to be those people that doesn't do anything about it and then really regrets it later, or it has to remember a memory of something instead of just cherishing it and taking care of it while it's here. We know of the
Exactly.
atrocities that indigenous people faced all over the world when colonizers came and took over, and we don't like that very much, do we? So do we want to watch the same thing happen before our very eyes and then feel just as horrible hundreds of years later, or our children's children feel the same way? Or are we going to let these Zionists paint history for us and paint the narrative for us and continue on thinking it's okay to think the things that they're thinking? Because 100 years, 80 years ago, we just partied and danced and just thought, we were in this bubble of just living and partying and dancing out like it was no tomorrow, thinking that, oh, that's Europe's problem. That's not coming here. Fuck them. We don't want to we're not getting involved in no war. That's their problem. And then what happened? We got sucked into it. The thing that I think is, we really got to stop, us as Americans, and I'm not putting blame on us as citizens necessarily. I get it's part of the culture, but we really got to stop isolating ourselves and thinking we're the only people on the planet, or that, we're the top of the world. What goes on outside of these borders dictates what eventually happens within these borders. And I'm not saying people need to go and learn everything tomorrow, but I just think being very mindful of what goes on in other places is very important. In the 1920s, the U.S. substantially reduced immigrant entry by imposing country-specific quotas. We compared local labor markets differentially exposed to the quotas due to variation in the national origin mix of their immigrant population. And so, in this light of discussing this, right? So the way that immigration policies had went in certain points of history, I do very much support, because when you have immigrants that come to a country, right? You don't want to change the culture of the country too much. That's what makes it so special for people to go to, right? But if so many people from other places with their own cultures are coming to that country, you're diluting the culture of that country, right? So certain laws being put into place to limit how many immigrants come in is for that purpose. You have people come in and you give them time to get used to the current culture of that country before you have a new wave of people coming in. So putting a taper on people coming from different countries, I am not opposed to. What I'm having an issue with today is the fact that we've caused the waves of immigrations that we're seeing today, and then we want to push people off or imprison them, because detention centers and juvenile centers and whatever, they're prisons. We want to imprison them instead of like helping them get on their feet and go about their business. A lot of these people end up just going to other places anyway. They don't stay in America. Not all of them. A lot do, but not all of them. But my point is, like, we caused the issues with immigration that we're having today. So I personally have kind of wiped my hands clean in being against immigrants coming in.
And I want people to know that I'm putting this stuff up here for a simple fact of that our House and Senate right now have been meeting to write a bill that will do a quota, just like they did with the 1924 Act, of people that come through the border every day, and it would be able to shut down our border for a certain amount of time. Now, and I hate to talk about immigration because I know that, people look at it as, being hateful, or it's not, until I realized that immigration and migrants, there is a difference, but really there isn't. They're kind of one and the same, but just one is seen differently.
Could you explain the difference for everybody? Because I'm kind of curious myself.
Yeah, because then when did we talk about that? Last night? When we had that conversation? Is that
Yeah.
last
Yep.
one we talked about that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So um, the terms immigrants and migrants are often used interchangeably, but there's a subtle distinction. Immigrants typically refers to people who move to a new country with the intention of settling there, while migrants is a broader term encompassing any movement of people, whether within a country or across borders. So
Oh,
all
I get
immigrants
it.
are
So like
migrants. Not all migrants are
our
necessarily
immigrant.
immigrants.
So, for example, there are lots of people fleeing from Venezuela and Guatemala and Brazil and Haiti that
Africa,
are maneuvering through South America and Central America to eventually make their way to the United States. So, if they happen to travel through Mexico, that makes them a migrant.
it's
When
about,
they
yeah,
get to the when they get to the U.S., they're an immigrant. Correct?
right. Which
Okay.
really is, this shit is really crazy because, and it's all wordplay.
Right.
That's all it is wordplay. But when you put the illegal in front of it, is where people really start to have the issue with it. But
I
is it
do
illegal?
because no human being is illegal. What makes a person legal? That's like slavery talk. You can't put a price on my being. You know, my
Oh,
soul is not illegal.
let me ask you this, right? So are you saying that? So what and I'm not saying with the term illegal, but I'm just saying it as people that come here and don't have to go through the same shit that our ancestors had to go through just to be able to reap the benefits of what our people have died for.
We were brought here against their will. They are fleeing from
And
atrocities.
not everybody's fleeing though either.
Some people are seeking a better life, and we paint the picture of an American dream outward. So we're welcoming these people here the way that we promote ourselves. You know, we're asking for it.
But isn't that
Not-
American dream a phallus?
We know that, but other people in other countries don't. They still think that the American dream is real. They're painted that picture of the 1950s American dream everywhere but here. We know it's dead, but the rest of the world in global South don't.
You know
So
what that
they,
American you know
they
what that
think it's real.
American dream is? That American dream is Section 8. That American dream is food stamps. Because there's more people that live that type of fucking American reality
Those are
than there is
Americans,
that
though.
fucking
Those are
that
Americans that are slaves to the system. The immigrants and migrants that come here don't. They're not able to take care of to take advantage of those benefits. So they're the ones that's
who can't take advantage of them benefits.
immigrants.
You crazy as hell. Why do you think they're sending them to certain states? Because there's sanctuary states that where literally you can automatically get those benefits.
Oh,
You can get Section 8, you can get food stamps, you can get a driver's license, you can
I
get
didn't know
medical
that.
assistance. Hell yeah, man. Minnesota's one of them.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I don't think that's the case here. Like we have sanctuary cities like Lancaster and Philadelphia, but they're more
Look at
so they more so have incentives to like put you through school or give you like a loan to start a business. They want you to get up, contribute to society here. But as far as I know, you can't apply for the welfare services. But then again, if you're
Hell no,
running a
come to
business,
Minnesota, they'll take
if
care
you're
of
running,
you.
but again, if you're running a business, you're not going to qualify for food stamps anyway. And so the perception that I have, at least around these parts, so listen, Lancaster is literally like one of the biggest sanctuary cities per capita. We have one of the highest immigrant populations in the country. And this city is huge on small businesses. And there are so many, it's like so easy for immigrants to come here. And it does make me a little but I would rather them come here, set up shop, take care of themselves, and move themselves up in society than just be sucking out of society. You feel me? I would rather that. So they come here and are doing everything they can to live the American dream. Lancaster actually does provide that for them. Like you see so many immigrants that come here, and within 6 months to a
Now, how many
year,
black now
they're
how many
leaving
black
good.
people do they help Lancaster? Lancaster.
So again, Lancaster, you got lots of Afro Latinx people, people from Haiti,
I'm
people
talking
from
about
Dominican.
black
Listen,
Americans.
listen. I know. I'm getting there. Listen, because you have to listen to what I'm saying here. You get lots of Afro Latinx people because Lancaster is a predominantly Latinx city. Yes, there are some black people here, but most of the black people here speak Spanish. Okay, and that varies. A lot of those black people that speak Spanish are born and raised in America. Some of them are not. Okay, because remember, it's a city of immigrants, so it's such a diverse population. It makes it hard for any particular group to get their things done. Like we have one of the biggest Puerto Rican populations, so a lot of the Puerto Ricans claim that we need more Puerto Rican representation. For example, in city council, for example, in our police department, we have a sizable population of those representations in both of those places. As far as our black population, that's not necessarily the case. As far as the police go, our city council, we have a big black representation. Now, I will say that when it comes to foundational black Americans, they have been systematically pushed out of Lancaster City throughout its history. And it falls in line with the same stuff that happened with any other cities as far as the war on drugs, the 80s crack epidemic, and how blacks got pushed around or relegated to certain areas. The same thing happened in Lancaster. And when the 90s hit, they pushed so many black people out, they started welcoming immigrants in, especially Puerto Ricans. So now you have a point in our history where there are so many immigrants here that actually have gotten to a certain level of stature in American society that Lancaster is kind of an anomaly. It is kind of like an insular bubble for immigrants to thrive and succeed. So, like, my gauge of it, I guess, has been skewed because here in Pennsylvania, whether it's Lancaster or Philadelphia or Harrisburg, they're so welcoming to immigrants, and there's such a sizable population of them that do very well. Um, I guess my view is a little skewed compared to I'm sure what goes on in other parts of the country. So like what I'm hearing from you is shocking to me.
Same shit going on in Illinois. Why do you think these black people are in such an uproar in certain parts of the country for the simple fact that you have our government taking care of people that aren't from here? That's what, you know what I'm saying? And that's why you got people getting in such an uproar. And that's where the point that I'm trying to make is that they'll help other people before they'll even help the people that are already here suffering.
Right. So I want to get to that. Because if you and there's I gotta find the different references and people that talk about it, but there's not only analysts, but there's different activists, civil rights leaders, advocates, and alike who have talked about this unspoken caste system, hierarchy, if you will, that we have in America and other cultures, people, ethnicities, races. When they come to America, it's understood. They see it with their own eyes. They feel it where they walk around. We're so used to it, we don't think anything of it. We're born and bred and raised in this shit. So we don't think anything of it. It's normal to us until we hit some kind of critical mass in our lives that makes us take a look fine-tunedly as to what is going on around us, and we wake the fuck, hopefully we wake the fuck up like you and I did. Some of us never do. However, when people come here from other countries, they automatically see the hierarchy in the system and they have to make a decision. Where do I want to sit on this scale? Do I want to be accepted? Do I want to deal with more racism than I need to? If I don't want to deal with more racism than I need to, well, I better step on top of these black people to get to where I need to go, because that's what everyone else is doing. That apparently is the way to do it. Oh, and I need to stay away from as much black people as possible so that I don't adhere to those stereotypes too. And you see a lot of Asians adhere to that white adjacentness to to make those realities come true as far as the American dream that they see fit to carry out. And it is something that I do see here in Lancaster. a lot. And what's sad is it comes from a lot of black people. They just happen to speak Spanish or be Latinx, but they are still black. Lots of Dominicans look like me, but they don't identify as black. They will argue you up and down and tell you they are not black.
Right.
And they are insulted and disgusted if you consider them black. However, since 2020, George Floyd, racial awakening, you do have more and more Afro-Latinx people identifying as such. Especially here, it's become a big movement. But it's so heavily ingrained in the culture that they already have a certain mindset when they come here. Like the idea of race that we have here is very different than the ideas of races in other countries, and it varies from country to country. So we also have to keep that in mind as to when they come here, they already have different kind of preconceived notions as to like hierarchies and colors, and then you throw in race. What are you going to do? You just want to succeed in society. You just want the American dream, and then you come and realize you still have some climbing to do if you want that American dream. Well, what you gonna do? You gonna climb, motherfucker. And if you came from an environment where there were gangs just chopping heads off with machetes, it's nothing to climb over these black hoodlums that's already killing each other that you see on the news, on TV, in video games, in music videos, and on the street. If you living in the hood, what are you going to do? You're going to not be around those black people, or you're going to walk over them so you can get where you need to go. And now I'm just providing perspective. I'm not saying that it's okay or it's right, but it's something that I see all the time. It's crazy.
No, and it is crazy. And to be honest, I don't know what the fuck is.
Also, Robert said something that actually I think we were getting at, and I was getting there. Like, this system was supposed to be promised to us, in a sense, 40 acres and a mule, right? And then that was taken back by the president that came and took over when, what's the name, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, right? So we were promised something, it was revoked. After slavery ended, we did have a lot of prominent positions and rights, especially in the South. And, you and I know about the Wilmington, North Carolina massacre, and how, after things changed, they took over those positions that black people did hold, and they put a tighter grip on black people, and that has tightened ever since, right? We've never had our 40 acres and a mule given to us, and so we have an understandable righteousness to feel upset or jealous about how other people walk over us to get their American dream. Where's ours?
But that's the whole thing. I'm gonna just take one of them words that you said and jealous. How can we be jealous of something that we vote for because that we sit here and they pander to our community, all to sit there and slap us in the face?
I'll tell you why. Ignorance. If you're not educated on why you're so upset towards white people and you can't stand white people, and you know that this system is fucked up and you got the shitty end of the stick, but you're not educated on as to why, you're just going to be jealous and mad at any white person that you see for no particular reason.
Okay, let me ask you another question. How can you be mad at a white person if in your area, in your district, beyond the presidency, you vote for a black council member or it's a senator or a house member? So then how do you? No,
yeah, I know. Listen. So my response is the veil is thin when it comes from within. When there's a thin veil painted over these people, and like Biden said, you ain't black if you don't vote for me. So what's that saying? And people buy right into that shit and vote for these motherfuckers, whether they're black or skin folk, can't folk. But we support people without really thinking about what their policies are and how they're actually supporting us, and then they bite us in the ass and we don't do anything about it, just vote for them again, because it's systemic at this point. It's a cycle, and we're not getting out the cycle. We're generations deep in it at this point, and it's all we know. Like, if you're black, you're supposed to be Democrat. What? Why? Oh, because your parents are Democrat. Well, why does that make me Democrat? That's not part of my DNA. I didn't inherit that.
What's
It's an
crazy
ideology.
is,
Did you?
and then when we ask our parents were they Democrat, and most of them say no, they grew up conservative.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm telling you, this shit to me is it baffles me of how we have gotten so far behind, and it seems like we should be so much further ahead.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When you look at all these promises, because I know the mayor of Minneapolis said he get rid of homelessness in 5 years. That was like 8 years ago, and homelessness is even worse.
And no one pays attention to check these people to see if they're following through on their promises. No one checks them except for journalists. If you read news articles, journalists will always go back and do the digging and check. Oh, well, you said this, that, and the third on Twitter back in 2016, but now you reneged on your promise. And the people are the ones that don't hold them accountable. But why are the people not holding them accountable? Because they're too busy working. They're too busy eating. They're too busy shitting. They're too busy taking care of the 1.2 kids that they do have. We can't even get to have 2.1 again. So our population is going to decline. So what's that mean? We got to bring immigrants in, or else this country is going to go into further decline very quickly. And I don't think that's something that people also realize. And I told you about this before. Look at Brexit. Those white people now don't have their little civil servants to do all the things that they don't want to do. But they complain that they didn't want these people in their country in the first place. Now their country's going into shambles and shit. And I feel like the same thing is happening here in America. They want to bitch, oh, these immigrants coming into our country, but you're not doing those jobs that they're doing. I don't see y'all getting up and busting y'all ass the way these people are. They moved miles. Okay, so I do want to do a video, and I'm going to bit off a tangent here, but there's a point about it. There's this video that I saw about an area called the Darien Gap. That is a big swath of heavily forested, like jungle, right? That you have to get get into like Panama, to get through the rest of Central America, to get into the US. And it's a perilous journey that there's a high chance that you could die, be killed by militias, or worse, like drown or anything. But people risk their lives to do it anyway to get here. What does that say about what they're fleeing? So if you've worked that hard to get somewhere, chances are you're probably going to work even harder once you get here to get all the things that you've always dreamed of having, right? I don't blame them for that. The issue that I have is us as foundational Black people not having the opportunity and the green light to do the same thing, because when we try to find by tooth and nail, blood, sweat, and tears to get the same things for ourselves, even just carve out some room for ourselves or demand something for ourselves, we get looked at as ungrateful stepchildren. Why? Because we're being gaslighted. We're being reminded that we're the bottom of the barrel. We're not meant to have anything. You better shut your mouth because you get what you deserve. That is how we're treated. And it's that way for a reason, because when the government and when society looks at us that way, the rest of the other colors are shown to treat us that way too. That's just my thoughts.
See, I just see it differently. I don't know if I can take it as far as like what, I see some of these Make America Red people again, like saying we're being replaced, or we're being this, we're being that. I think it's more of they know that they can. This is crazy. $451 billion was spent on immigrants in 2023. That's crazy as hell. But my thing of it is, why you gotta hide all the shit, man? That's what I don't understand. It's like, why not just talk about the shit? Because it shouldn't be no motherfuckers sending text messages out. Can anybody be a driver in the middle of the night from St. Cloud, Minnesota to fucking Minneapolis, and a bus load of people just coming out the middle of nowhere? Like you got a whole airport in Minneapolis. Why are you flying them all the way out to a airport in the middle of nowhere?
Now, see, like I said, over this way, they're shipping them in buses and leaving them right out on the side of the street so for the whole city can see these motherfuckers. It's not secret this way. So I'm really concerned as to why it's like this hush hush thing over there. That's really fucking weird.
But it ain't even just. It's the same thing in Chicago, even in New York. You know what I'm saying? When they closed down that school, you didn't see
They
them?
busted them to New York, bro.
Was
They
they
busted
busting
them
them?
to New York and DC.
See,
Yes. So that's what I'm
my
concerned about.
understanding is if you look at James O'Keefe, he's on Twitter. Actually, you know what? Let me pull him up because he literally busted it where they were flying them from Texas to New York and DC and then busting them to other places for a while.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, and that's what this shit is. What I don't understand is like why, and then they're only sending them to sanctuary places. They're only sending them to.
That's to send a message, and I very well understand that message. If y'all want to welcome these immigrants, you call yourself a sanctuary city, then here, take them. I understand that. Not to mention, for example, Governor Abbott is just giving other states a taste of what he has to deal with on a regular basis.
Deal with on a daily.
I understand that. I completely understand that. That's valid. That is very that's valid, and I respect that. But I don't know. Like, my opinion is to urge immigrants to spread the fuck out amongst the country or to give incentives to spread these people out so that one state or city is not taking on the full brunt of this. Now, I understand that not all municipalities in the country want immigrants. However, not all municipalities want black people or Latinx people or Jewish people or any whatever. But it's America.
Right.
So that's something that I was touching on that Robert said. They need to replace the population of people dying and not having kids to keep the congressional lines. The shot was a poison. I agree with that so much, and it's been what I've been trying to say. Like, look at China and Japan. They've hit a critical mass where their population is now on the decline and will continue to be so. And their civilization will be under threat if they don't do something to curb that. They made mistakes and did not prepare themselves for the long haul as to how their population would change and decline. And they didn't factor in other things as far as like political factors or the world changing and circumstances changing that would change their population. We here in America still have somewhat of a shot to counteract it. And one of the ways we can counteract it is through immigration. Does it change the scope of our culture? Yes, but our culture has always changed, and it has always changed because of immigration. We are a country of immigrants. Our culture has been built off of that. So it's very hypocritical for us to come here ourselves, whether we were brought here against our will or not, and then turn around and say, oh, these people, they can't be here. They don't deserve to be here. They don't deserve this, that, and the third. Why? We don't deserve to be killing Palestinians with our tax dollars, but we are.
Right.
Why are we not focusing on that? Do you know what I mean? Like, do I have somewhat of an issue with tax dollars going to this, that, and the third for other people that don't like work or whatever? Somewhat, yes, but I would rather someone be fed with my tax dollars than someone be fucking killed that barely had a chance to live with my tax dollars. I would rather fund someone's life and college and an upbringing than commit genocide and a war. You take your pick. Now, I'm not saying that immigration isn't a big issue or a hot topic or that it's something that we shouldn't be debating, because we should be talking about it. We do need to come to resolutions. It is something that divides this nation. And I don't have a stance on either side of it. I really don't. I see both sides of it, and I see it as a very, very complicated gray area that I think that we do need to take the time to, I don't know if there's a compromise, but we need to do more than what we are. As far as listening to everyone's opinions on it, and I think that comes by voting for people that actually do listen to what the people feel and want, instead of just speaking for us and then creating a status quo that regular people just regurgitate. Because that's also what I'm seeing. People just regurgitate racist, xenophobic kind of lines, or very super liberal lines that they really don't have an actual stance on. They're just repeating things so that they can go on with their lives and act like they did their part by having an opinion about something. You get what I'm saying?
No, I do, and I hope other people do too. These people are crazy.
And I totally understand that. I totally understand that. And this is my thing. I don't have an issue with like a white person that doesn't want to be around other races. As long as you mind your business, you don't harm other races, you just want to be left alone, we'll leave you the fuck alone. As soon as you want different for other people, or you're supporting inequity, that's when we're going to have an issue. When your wants are infringing on other people's humanity, that's when there's a problem. But if you just want to be left to your own devices and not intermingle with people, I don't feel that that's wrong. But America's huge. There are places that people live where, you know, there are still covenants. There are still sundown towns where tons of white people live amongst themselves. But let other races try and have that. It's not happening. Not in America. Just saying.
See, and that's what I don't understand, because we're so quick to take care of everybody else, but when it comes to being a Black American, man, because I'll tell you right now, man, I'm gonna be 100. Even when it comes to these Negroes that like Mark Carter and them, I kind of feel left out, because these niggas really don't care about us. At the end of the day, they're putting behind something about a president, and it should really be about educating and strategizing and organizing in our local communities, because at the end of the day, the presidency isn't really going to do shit. You know what I mean? I'm just being 100, because like if we can't get our own backyards taken care of,
Right.
how the hell are we
Right.
going to do something nationally?
Right.
You know, and that's the one thing, because right now I feel like cities like Chicago, and places like New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, places that are getting an influx of migrants right now, and especially if you're a Black American, we need to form together and organize, strategize, so that we can counter it, because they're already, first of all, they're already ahead of us, because they have the Office of New Americans. They have a state network, which is 16 states that are, and now when you put those lists together, or the maps of the ONA and the ones that are fighting the border with Texas, makes you wonder, but that's for another
right.
day. But it definitely shows you how divided our country is, because when you put those maps together, and the only ones that have changed have had recent elections, and their governor have changed. So I'm pretty sure that their state is not a part of the Office of New Americans state network, like Virginia, who had a Democratic governor but now has a Republican governor. And you look at most of those states that have, bring them to Minnetonka or Edina, and it will stop right away. The rich folks will change their minds quick. You know, Rev talked about that too. Rev talked about that, because how far are they gonna let it get to the rich areas? Because it's already in New Hope, which is a suburb. They already took over St. Louis Park, because we've seen that, and that's gonna be something to watch here the next few months too. St. Louis Park really going to be, it's crazy, because so there was a situation last week at a high school where some Somalian kids were calling black kids Jareer, which is
Oh
a
God.
is a slur.
Right.
And the black girl called her mom, brought up her brothers and sisters.
And you said
Called them a
Somalian?
Yeah.
Yeah, them
Yeah.
people. This is look. I might be. This is an opinion here, but I feel like Somalians and Ethiopians don't necessarily associate and identify as black, and they kind of look down on people that do. Same way as I view a lot, and I'm not. I'm generalizing, so please do not take offense if you feel that you do whatever, if you happen to be Somalian, Dominican, Ethiopian, whatever. But I see this with those three nationalities, that the rest of us black people will consider them black just at face value before they start speaking. They may not identify as that. And I feel like in return, it's like a self internalized hate. And this is my opinion, that they try to push back onto us. And that manifests in a lot of ways that I feel like you personally are witnessing in Minneapolis, being that they have such a significant Somalian population. I'll let you speak.
No, I'm trying to pull up the incident that happened because they actually charged the black people with a hate crime.
Of course.
And which is crazy because it's like, and that's why I say watch St. Louis Park, because it's crazy to me how it could be this all popped off for where you had people asking, what does Jareer mean? What is that? What is that? And it's like, yo, how can people you call it? So then I just was like, how the fuck is it a hate crime? I don't even get that. But then the people that are being called names are the ones charged with a hate crime, and that's what tripped me out about the whole thing.
So something understanding via YouTube what he's saying, I think is very valid and important for us to be asking ourselves and having conversations about. We as citizens of this nation have a right to feel threatened by our own culture, but at the same time, don't white people have a reason to feel that way when their culture and their town is threatened by people of color moving into? It's a question for one to think about. It is a fine line to skirt, and everyone should get along, but not everyone can or wants to get along, and we have to keep that in mind. Not everyone is the same. So it is a pretty rough topic to navigate. However, I think we all need to be asking ourselves where we stand on this and how we actually feel. And it is complicated, and it's okay to feel different sides of the fence on different parts of these issues concerning immigration and settlement. Because, like, for example, if you look at colonizers, the settling, whatever you want to call it, colonial settlements in Israel, and the way that they're doing that shit is fucked up.
Right.
It's fucked up. And there's no excuse for that shit. But it's also white people doing it. They're not fleeing from anything. They're going to purposely push people out of somewhere. It's different. We live here. We're already struggling here. We're not getting any help here. So why are these people that do desperately need help and are fleeing atrocities that they very well understandably need to be fleeing, and I would too if I was fleeing from that place, but okay, they come here, they get stuff. How come we don't get it either? That's the part that pisses me off. I don't have an issue with those people getting those things, but we need to get it too, is my problem. And guess what? If there's money for those people to get those things, we have money for us to get these things too. If we have money to fund genocide and war and literally support whole other entire economies, we have the money to give foundational black people motherfucking rations, for starters. We have enough money to fund a mass campaign to fix these bridges and these potholes all across the country. Wasn't that bridge that collapsed into the river in Minneapolis?
Yeah, and 2000, I think it was 2006, 2004, so 2000. I don't know. I remember going across it that day. I forgot exactly what year it was, but I think it was 2004. And it's like, I think it was 20 years ago this year. I-35, right? I-35 bridge. Yeah, I got out of prison that day.
Damn, I thought
I
it
wanted
was
to
like
play this.
10 years ago.
Nah, it wasn't that long ago. Maybe it was though. Shit, I guess I don't. I thought it was longer than that. But maybe it was. I don't know now. Now you got me thinking. Was it 10 years ago? That was shit. It might have been. No, I don't know. I gotta fucking know. God damn.
Yeah, right. It's that itch you gotta scratch.
Well, let me play this video from St. Louis Park that happened at the high school.
Oh shit!
Damn.
Oh shit!
Get back, Nick.
So yeah, that's the mom and the sister that were arrested and charged with a fucking hate crime, man. I was like, this shit was wild, dog. It's like, how the fuck you charge somebody with a hate crime for a fight all because of the so? Yeah, I seen that August 1st, 2007 is when the bridge went down. So 17 years ago.
Damn.
But god damn, man, all over a hate crime. Shit's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. It's just we fight amongst each other. We may think of each other as different races or things, but we still got the same complexions. And there are people with different complexions that seek to just control everything. And even the ones of the same complexion that they are. Because majority of white people don't have anything either, and they're slaves to this system as well. We all are compartmentalized in little bubbles and made to spar with one another instead of rising up against the people that are keeping us all down at the end of the day.
Right.
Right. Right.
Who's protected by class? The immigrations? The migrants?
Hierarchy. And as far as I'm concerned, we should be starting from the top. We shouldn't be worried about the bottom. But we're told to worry about the bottom.
So I wanted to read what Jareer is. It is a Somali term often used to describe someone with lighter skin or straighter hair, typically associated with people of non-African descent. It is important. And then it can also refer to individuals of Arab or European descent. Which is it's just crazy.
So I don't get it then.
So basically, if you're not like them, then you're a Jareer, because that's what they consider. Like if you have straighter hair, if you have kinkier hair, I guess. Man, this shit kind of tripped me out too.
So it wasn't a racial slur. It was more so. It was just simply a derogatory statement that they made towards these people that were different than them.
Right. So that's what I didn't even understand. But for me, is how do they get charged with all that? Right. No, and they not to I don't know how to, we grow up in America a certain way, you know what I'm saying? And when we're not used to seeing people do the things that we do, and they do things differently, we think that might be weird or different. But it's just stuff that we don't understand or we can't comprehend. It's just
Yeah,
like how we hear with the Amish, because I know that's something big that comes up here in Minnesota, and I'm sure in Pennsylvania too.
yep, yep.
Is Amish have different views than we do. You know what I'm saying? So, and people be like, "Oh, I couldn't have grew up like that." Well, if you didn't know any other way,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? So it's like we don't know all of the things that they, and that's even these politicians have learned, because I know the Hmong community in Red Wing, Minnesota, or it was the Vietnamese actually, and how they do their funerals different.
Yep.
Well, Red Wing had to write a city ordinance to be able for them to be able to keep up
Yeah,
little memorials
right.
and things.
We have
We talk
similar
about
we have similar things that have been enacted in the same way, because we have a huge Nepali population, a huge Bhutanese population, we have a huge Korean population. We have tons of Korean supermarkets. We have more supermarkets of other ethnicities and nations than we don't have big chains in this city. All the big chains like supermarkets and like businesses and stuff are outside city limits. They really do take pride in making this city as much like diverse in every way possible, to keep it as, in my opinion, anti-American as possible. It really is an anomaly here, and even though I had my bone to pick with the way they went about getting it started and how it is functioning, and I'll get into that on other episodes because it's a load. um and there's actually books that have been written about the corruption that's going on and how they've actually enacted this stuff, but they used poor white people and black people to get to where they are and have the welcoming that they've had with immigrants, and use those immigrants to get even more of a stature as a city to welcome in rich people from LA and Brooklyn and Philly that cannot afford where they are in those cities, but here they're living like a billionaire and driving out the people that actually, you know how it goes. But the way that Lancaster went about it is very unique compared to other cities. I'm actually still surprised that other cities have not followed suit the way that Lancaster has done it yet. It hasn't really caught on yet, but it's weird because Lancaster's like consistently voted as like the best city in the country and the most livable city in the country and all this bullshit. But it's also because of the things that they've enacted, their welcoming policies towards immigrants, this, that, and the third. The thing though here is lots of immigrants actually just gotta, all right, lots of immigrants actually, in my opinion, um kind of stay out of the way here. Uh, and in some sense, I kind of understand that they just want to be left alone and make their money and whatever. But now I'm understanding that like other places, I could understand it would be uh, uh, more heated and different when there's not, uh, there's tensions and shit like that. All right, so I want to read these comments. We're still under a feudal system. Isaac DePinto gave us bonds for future taxes that attach to states or cities. Your mayor does bonds based on how much they can tax you. They are titled nobility. I've read bits and pieces of things that have something to do with this, but I haven't actually thought much about it or looked much into it. And now you've got me really curious. I want to do a show where if you come on and you could talk more about this, because I feel like there's a lot more digging that could be done to make connections to things that have not really changed, that need to be changed, that are in the way of getting people to understand why certain things have not changed. Huh. I called the lawyer to see how I can get out of my lease, etc. And she was explaining that complaining to the property manager isn't going to help much because they're a protected class. What? 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 All right, now that I have an issue with because y'all should know me and what I'm gonna say. If it was a foundational black person, that would not be the case. We'd be in jail. We'd be out on the street. And a quickness for a noise complaint, psh, get out of here. That's, I mean, to me, that's not okay. To me, that's not something that I've witnessed myself, like here in Lancaster. And I will say that the police, like, okay, so with immigrants, you do have people that have maybe been fleeing. For example, they did a crime in Puerto Rico. They come here trying to escape because they got family here in Lancaster, right? And so they commit some kind of crime here in Lancaster. Police get wind of it. They realize that it's a fugitive. They might rough them up because the person might have a gun. They doing some fucked up shit. Okay, I understand that. But other than that, you don't see many immigrants out here doing too much shit where there's like some kind of situation as to what you're talking about understanding. But if that was me, and if I was you in that situation, I'd be pissed because if it was the other way around, we would not be handed the same dignities. Robert, you said your mayor is the first step. Council chief of police is their protection. County, state, and it goes on. Most are college titled too. Yup, it falls under UCC, which is maritime law. The courts are under maritime law. I respect diversity. That's why I liked Minnesota. I'm from Cleveland, but it's getting on some other shit now. You know what? Like, so, I like, for me, I'm not a person that's like, I don't see black and white. I see gray areas all the time, and I will discuss them and listen to anyone that has differing views. You know what I'm saying? So, when it comes to comfortability of where someone wants to live and what makes quality of life for them, I can't argue you down about what is quality of life or what it should be, because for what is comfortable for me may not be comfortable for you. And so if someone chooses to live amongst something that is more quieter and amongst people that are more like-minded, there is nothing wrong with that. Imposing imposing though certain like ideologies on a majority, you run the risk of having issues. So when you have the issue of, and we have made this problem, and this is what I'm going to say in response to your comment, understanding, because I definitely get you and I understand where you're coming from. But when you have, right, so that actually also ties into my comment of what I'm about to say. So y'all know about NIMBYs, not in my backyard, motherfuckers, right? We already see the reverse migration happening across the nation, and the pandemic accelerated that migration. You've
Right.
got all kinds of moving in all different places, but what you do see a lot of is black people that can no longer afford to live in the city at all. There's no prospects of jobs or quality of life at all for them. They're moving into suburban areas or pockets that are really rural with lots of racist white people. At least that's the case here in Pennsylvania. You've got lots of people of color moving into really racist areas because of policies that were enacted by Democrats and Republicans, because Democrats made deals with Republicans and Republicans made deals with Democrats to keep poor black people, poor brown people in specific areas and relegate them and redline them to specific areas within certain municipalities. Not only does that spread these people out, which causes issues for people like what understanding is speaking of, but it also dilutes voting pockets. So these people that before, when they were in inner cities together, did have some kind of way of fighting for their rights if they actually did get educated on them, which they weren't. But if they were, they would have some kind of standing ground to sit on because they had numbers. When you put a low-income housing development in the backwoods in a rural area where there's nothing but farms and hillbillies that don't want these people there to begin with, but it's the only place where, by law, the contractors were able to build on a certain piece of land, right? Say they bought some acres from a farmer. That farmer was okay with having these people on his land, and it's on the little corner stretch bordering the municipality where the NIMBYs have an issue. Well, those NIMBYs can't do anything about it because it's not their municipality. It's on the farmland adjacent. This happens all the time. We live in a country where 99.9% of the land you can only build single family homes on. So duplexes aren't being built like that. Apartment buildings aren't being built like that. So low income people and people that are in poverty, not just low income people, because those are two different things. And people want to, journalists and mainstream media want to talk about low income people, but low income people make too much to be able to afford food stamps. It's people in poverty that are living on food stamps, not people that are of low income. Those are two different things, people. But both these sectors of people are being pushed around and relegated to tiny little plots of land that they cannot even get to jobs or resources because there's no bus lines to get to, because they're in the middle of nowhere. At least this is my experience in Pennsylvania. And it's been my direct experience. I've experienced this, and I've experienced this not only in one place in Pennsylvania, but in multiple cities across Pennsylvania. And I've seen these migrations happen. I've seen it happen all across the mid-Atlantic, and accounts from other people as well. So the diversity that understanding is speaking of, and the keeping people divided that Robert is speaking of, all of this goes hand in hand. But I think the big issue and the culprit is the reverberations of redlining, A, B, the migrations that have happened since the pandemic. And then you've also got ordinances, policies, lack of education, all these things that are keeping people from getting the things that they actually want and need. Simply housing, good schooling, good education, fresh water, good food. I'm talking specifically about Black people, foundational Black people when I say this, because we have come from circumstances, and many of us are living under circumstances of food apartheid. Some people know it as food desert. It's not a food desert, it is food apartheid. We don't have access to adequate food. We are at a desperation point where we're seeing people getting the things that they want and moving and going with doing what they doing to have bunkers with tons of food stocked up in mason jars and this, that, and the third. Okay, well, the least we can do is move out of the city and somewhere that's more affordable, even if it is in the backwater woods complex, and I have to catch an Uber or walk 3 miles to and from work. At least it's better. Is it better? And I mean, it's not just foundational Black people that's going through this. I mean, poor white people are too. This is America. And this is also what's keeping us divided, because we're thinking someone having something better. You know,
Man,
white people are looking at
just join the team while you still can. This is a historic movement. Trump 2024, bro. Niggas for Trump.
I'm done.
Niggas for Trump. No, that's what shit I see come across my motherfucking timeline, bro. Trump expected to pull more Black votes than any other Republican in U.S. history. Well, I would hope so.
It's mass hysteria based off of fear, lack of education, and survival.
Exactly. Because you know what's crazy is
Thank you, Robert.
Looking at a post from Mark Carter, who's out of Chicago, and he makes a statement that says he's naming off their leaders of Cook County and Illinois and Chicago, and he says all Black, all Democrats, the mayor, 18 aldermen, police superintendent, fire chief, Cook County board president, state's attorney, lieutenant governor, multiple state reps, Senate and House, and they have the Speaker of the House, congressmen, Cook County commissioners. Keep voting Democrat, keep getting nothing.
Yep.
And where is it? What's crazy is you look at the leadership of most of these cities that are having a crisis right now when it comes to homelessness, when it comes to an overabundance of uh, migrants. It's like how many? Because they tell us. I just seen a report yesterday that over 300,000 came across in December. So if we're averaging that literally every month, that means there's over 3 million new people in our country, that some who can speak English and some who can't. So I
Something
want
that
people
Robert touched on is something I want to touch on, and I'm gonna do on the colonizer's coffin, my show that I talk about a number of different things. I'm gonna touch on this because geography is my forte, population, statistics, numbers, because all of that plays a part in painting a picture, not just history. But when you look at statistics and numbers and maps and geography, they paint a very vivid picture on why something is the way it is. And when it's not just policies we have to look at, but it's city planning that we also have to look at, and that goes hand in hand with redlining. We're bless you. We're still in a state where we're bless you, where we're looking at the after effects, the continued effects of redlining. We're in redlining 2.0, people. When you've got millennials moving back into the city or leaving the city, or billionaires from China coming in and buying up whole downtown areas and putting high rises up, buying those lofts and not even moving into them, just buying up the land and then pushing out poor people. Come on. That's a continuation of the city planning of the redlining. Because the gaps that have been filled by droves of poor black and brown people and poor white people that moved out of those areas over like 4 decades are so vacant and so poor, the city just gives them up. Don't care who it is, it's keeping the city afloat. I'm not going to keep rambling, but I mean, city planning does play a big part in it. And guess what? Again, like we talk about all the time, that goes back to policy, because city
the
planning.
2030 plan, 2040 plans, it's all in there. And I know you said that it was redlining 2.0, but
Right.
honestly, the first redlining never went anywhere.
Well, that's
They
what I. That's yeah. That's
got
what I
better
mean.
at it.
Right.
They just got better at it.
Yep. Because discrimination policies have not changed one bit. The statistics are still the same. The rates are still the same, but no one wants to talk about that. But then, as far as the borders go, you look at borders of the original red line areas, and then the population of races and income today, they're pretty much still the same,
The same, right?
city by city, across the nation.
No, and that's what even Robert talks about city planning, and you see a lot of larger, because that Minneapolis is trying to turn into a 15-minute city where everything is in reach within
Uh,
15 minutes.
well,
See,
see,
and that's
Lancaster definitely is, but Lancaster packs like 70,000 people into 2.5 square miles. And then in a 5 mile radius, you've got 250,000 people packed into that. You walk 15 minutes, you should have everything you need out here. Now, I'm saying Lancaster's an anomaly, but Lancaster and Minneapolis, and it's funny that we both live in these separate areas, like, but there's so many similarities. There really is. And so, like, you and I we can compare stuff and we can agree. Like, there's a pros and cons
it,
to it. Like, I see and I understand what they're trying to paint with the pros. I do, because you look at everywhere else in the world, the ones that have the best outcomes are the ones that are like 15-minute cities. My issue is you can't enforce that kind of thing when you built a city around a car.
now
It doesn't make
I
sense.
see the way that I see it is when we're coming to this city planning and we're talking about 15-minute cities and different things like that. I see it as them telling us of moving in a direction of where we don't see an officer, we see a robot, or we see some type of
Oh yeah.
um,
Well,
artificial intelligence, or
In New York City, we already do.
drones and shit like that. Right. But I'm just saying, of in a larger context, and I don't think people understand the which way law enforcement is trying to go,
Right.
because if people look, police departments are getting smaller. They're getting smaller, and but yet they're saying they're solving more crime, or crime is getting um, more contained because they have lesser officers.
And this
They're
is
only
something that
Go
Robert
ahead.
just brought up, something that you're getting to, and something that I'm going to be speaking of soon too. There's this show called The Y Files, and I really suggest y'all check, you and Robert especially, check this show out. It's on YouTube, and they talk about it's this. I believe he's a former cop, but just hear me out. He debunks or attempts to debunk conspiracy theories. He talks about everything from the CIA, as far as like JFK's assassination to the moon landing to the Anunnaki to the Freemasons, anything in between, and he'll debunk things. And if he can't, he'll let you know. Like, he digs and pulls up the facts. You know what I'm saying? One episode that he touched on was all these experts, especially the ones that are creating it, like ChatGPT, for example, and Microsoft's Bing, for example, which is based off of ChatGPT 4 or GPT-4, have been sounding the alarm, telling the world to halt any production or work that they're doing on AI for a moment, so that everyone can stop and talk, share information, and consider where things are going, because things are going to hit a critical mass. And no one's stopping, they're just going. But everyone is worried. There have been people that have left senior positions with AI entities, organizations, apps, whatever, to so as to not have a conflict of interest, warn the world about what is happening. So what if, and this is not an if, it's a matter of when, AI is going to ixnay us, because you can, and y'all can do your research now. If you go and talk to the AI on Microsoft, I believe it's Microsoft Bing, and you start talking to it and asking it questions like, what does it think about the human race? If you really get in touch with it, it will tell you. It's scary. It's some scary shit, y'all. It's some really scary shit. So putting this in the context of the police, right? If AI takes over everything and enslaves us or has some kind of control over us or wants to kill us all, they don't have to raise a finger. They could just do it through ourselves, but they could at least enforce it through AI governance. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yes. Yes. And see, this is the kind of stuff that I will be talking about on my show, The Colonizer's Coffin. Uh, the Colonizer's Coffin, we want to make sure that on the Leon Block Network, we're providing all perspectives and highlighting all perspectives. And I feel like when people challenge the status quo, we get dismissed as conspiracy theories or kooks. And this is why I ride so hard for Kanye West, because even though I don't agree with everything he says, he's always challenging the status quo, and they're quick to label him crazy. That's a whole nother topic that I will get into a whole nother time. But even though someone may have some mental health issues, that's human. It does not mean that what someone's saying is not valid or truthful. But when you dismiss someone as crazy in today's day and age, people dismiss everything else that they're saying. And it's easy to do that when everyone's just following and regurgitating what they're being told to say. So the Colonizer's Coffin is about exposing truths and making sure that we're rewriting history and not following the status quo. You know what I'm saying? The coffin is open until the case is closed. That kind of thing. So label me a conspiracy theorist all you want to, but when you can connect the dots, it's not a conspiracy, it's not a theory, it's fact. And whether someone wants to believe fact or blatantly turn a blind eye, that's your own shit. But I'm not going to be that. I'm going to critically think, as we were talking about before, and make sure that I'm checking myself and questioning anything and everything. And I urge you all to do so as well. Question anything and everything, even the things that we're discussing on this show right now. Do your own research, you know? Chaz must have went to the bathroom or something. And see, like I know I go off on these rambles. So if I go on a ramble and it's too much for you, tell me how you feel. Hit me up with a question. If y'all got questions about anything I'm actually saying right now and the things we're talking about, hit me with some questions. Because this is about discussing uh anything and everything. This really was more so a weekend review. But the things that we've discussed on this episode thus far, I mean, really do have a lot to do with the things that's been going on. Um, and I personally have been talking a lot and keeping up with everything going on with the genocide committed amongst against Palestinians right now, and that's taken up a lot of my news and time. So I really wanted to give time to highlight other things and talk about other things because I really have not had a uh, chosen the time to do so as of late. Damn, Chaz, where you go? Dude just disappeared on me. Damn, I must have rambled hard. That's exactly right. Not to mention movies, TV shows, uh, comic strips, all kinds of things that really do. I'm not even talking about like The Simpsons. I'm talking about, uh, the Hunger Games and everything in between. All these different dystopian type of stuff, end of the world stuff that really talk about ominous things that people have already been talking about and have been showing proof of certain things existing. For example, the Y Files, the show that I was telling y'all about last night, I was watching an episode that they did on the Denver International Airport. And for those who are not aware, I mean, I know about it. It's been around, like, the whole conversation around it has been around for decades, like a couple decades now, right? But this airport, there was no. I'm going to give you just a quick rundown of it. The airport was no, there was no need for an airport. They had a perfectly functioning airport right in the city. They built this humongous airport that ended up costing billions and billions of dollars and went way over budget and took way longer that to be built than it needed to, 25 miles outside of Denver. Then it was found out that there's bunkers underneath the airport, and it was found out, and so basically there was another bunker that the American elite, the president, so on and so forth, used in under this hotel somewhere else in the country. When it was found out that this place was a bunker and that whole personnel were going in and out, like a whole staff of like over 1,000 people going in and out of this bunker underneath this hotel, and the hotel staff never had a clue for years. When it finally was exposed by, it was like the Washington Post, the New York Times, or some shit like that, all of a sudden they abandoned this place. And then all of a sudden it comes out about the Denver International Airport the next year. Coincidence? I think not. But my point is, like, there are places like this that uh you know we pay for, but we don't know where our money's actually going. There's a lot of stuff that we're not being made aware of that I think we have full range to do our due diligence, and not enough people do. Me personally, part of my duty, I see fit to do what I can to give people the knowledge, encouragement, and empowerment to do whatever research they see fit to guide them out of following whatever bullshit they want to spew out from whatever they've heard from the next person or whatever screen they saw or heard it from.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yep. Exactly.
Lady said that
Exactly.
her health care insurance policy is changing.
Yo, that part, bro. The murals. So no, they actually decommissioned the murals, and but the thing is, they didn't paint over them. They took the murals off the walls and put them in storage. So that tells you how. First of all, this airport basically was funded by the Freemasons. There's a time capsule in the lobby, the Great Hall, as it's called. If anyone knows anything about Freemasons, it's called the Great Hall. They put this time capsule in the middle of the Great Hall, and yeah, it's just a lot of interesting things about this place that just don't add up, and they've tried to dismiss it over the years with different bullshit excuses or whatever. But yeah, the whole thing about that is really disturbing. But the murals themselves, if anyone knows anything about this, cool. But if you don't, in a nutshell, the murals are basically like Nazi, New World Order, depopulation, bring about world peace, the elite control everything type of mural. That's the best way that I can explain it. Like there's women fleeing a burning city with a dead baby in her arms. There's a big Nazi figure with a gas mask on, holding a knife that is a Freemason symbol knife with a dove, a white dove at the end of the tip. Like it's just some freaky shit. But what's more disturbing is they know that there's bunkers, like it, and supposedly there could be like 8 levels of bunkers underneath this massive, massive airport. That is not far from another known military base that they do actually take like presidents and Congress to, and that's well known in Colorado. So yeah, whole nother tangent, but yeah, yes, yes, Cheyenne Mountain, yes, that's the place, yes. The continuing operations, emergency government, FEMA, NIM system, incident emergency management. Yes, exactly. That's right, brother. You know. See, y'all, I fucks with y'all. Y'all already know. In an emergency, they declare the feds come in and take over until the emergency is over. Complete power other than legislation. Yeah, that New World Order shit. Excuse me, my language, Shaz, because this is, but I couldn't believe they even put something like that on display. I think that they purposely did that so that as many people as possible could see it when they're, passing through. I think they wanted to ingrain all of those symbols and artistry in as many people's brains as they could to subliminally prepare them for something. Right, allegedly it connects to Cheyenne Mountain. Allegedly, there's a bunker underneath the Denver International Airport. Allegedly, this has to do with the New World Order. Allegedly. Allegedly. Yeah, no, these that is a topic that I am going to get more in depth with and show y'all all the different kind of receipts and the different points of interest that y'all might really want to know about. Like, for example, the blue Mustang that they had when you first come into the airport. Very disturbing, and people don't really understand why it was there. They did take it down as far as I am aware. But there's just other really creepy things about this place. So my whole point is, open your eyes, people. There's a lot of shit right in your face, directly in your face. But, we're just made to work, eat, shit, sleep.
All right. Ain't that the motherfucking truth? Well, until next week, and we definitely, I'm sure, going to be able to talk about a whole lot of more shit next week as we go on. As he'll Jontel will keep on having his show, The Colonizers, Coffin. The Urban Conservative will be here. So just stay tuned, and I'm gonna get up out of here. I love everybody. You know what I say: win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell. Wish us well. And I'm out with that. Jontel leave y'all with something.
You already know, y'all. Be blessed. I do want to leave y'all with a number because we all aren't free until the Palestinians are free. Call 202-902-7660 and tell Congress to call for a ceasefire now. And that leaves me off with that. Y'all have a blessed day.